Jujutsu Infinite, it failed. Everyone thought this was going to be the next big anime game, and no, it was not that, and it never was going to be that. And really, I think everyone needs to know what makes an anime game successful. Well, I'm pretty sure we just established this, but it's absolutely not what it's made on. While it plays a factor, if the game's bad, the game is bad. Clearly, developers don't understand what the players want, and they don't know how to maneuver psychology in a way that actually helps their game. And that's a bit crazy and a bit unsettling because we all just want a good game, yes? I believe so. I want a good game. But we're not going to get that anytime soon if things keep progressing the way they are. Besides from, the Holy War X's and the Rel C's and, those type of games that usually will never release, but we're not going to talk about that before people get mad at me. So here's my take on what makes a game successful, specifically a Roblox anime game. First off, I want to backtrack on the fact that games that are made on anime that are kind of trending always do better. Yes, they do better because, well, there's a larger market for that game and it has a potential to reach an audience that normally wouldn't play anime games. Well, yeah, that's obvious. But here's the problem, right? All those new players that don't play anime games, they get on your game and they realize, well, this isn't for me. That happens a lot. Nobody playing Adopt Me is going to get on a fighting anime game and be like, well, this is an amazing game. No, that's not going to work because you didn't make your game to cater towards that audience. When you're making a game that's based on a huge anime at the time, you don't want to make a game that people aren't going to want to play no matter who they are. And that sounds so crazy because you're probably thinking, well, I just want bad games to be on the platform, games that cater towards children and all that extra bull crap. No, no. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of these developers don't actually know how to pivot in a way that makes their game accessible to a large variety of players, not just the simulator farmers, the combat goonies, and the roguelite lovers. Because let's be honest, those are all pretty niched audiences. Things like Jujutsu Shenanigans is a little bit different because, well, it's kind of just a combat game, not in the combat sense of like, hey, we have an amazing combat. Because don't get me wrong, the game's combat, it's fun, but it's not amazing. What happened there was, well, the game, first off, it was made on a pretty trendy topic, Jujutsu Kaisen, and the game's combat was fun in a way that made it accessible to everyone. And that sounds so crazy because, well, you don't really have to grind anything. It's not a grinding game. You select what you want to play and you go beat up your friends. And then you domain expand on them and do some weird stuff. That's fun. People don't know what fun is these days. All right? And there's other ways to make a game that's not so linear and not so, well, boring to a larger audience. Like, the audience that wouldn't attract would be, of course, the hardcore anime fans. The hardcore anime fans want to play something like Relcs and your Deepokins and your GPOs. I'm sorry, I keep landing out GPO out there because I'm a GPO player. Yeah, I'm one of those people. Not really anymore, but yeah. What I'm trying to say is that, well, if you're gonna make a game, first off, either you want to niche down or you want to figure out a way to make the game accessible to a larger audience. So, hey, if you're going to make a heavy combat game, make it so there are players trying to get into the game can play the game without getting fried all the time. And that sounds so crazy, right? Because you can still make a skilled game that's more accessible, you just have to do it in a unique way. You don't just make a parry-based combat or a super stun-based combat and think, well, everybody's gonna want to play this. No, nobody's gonna want to play that. It's just the truth. And infinite combos are a lot different in fast-paced games than slow games. And I don't mean infinite combos, I do mean one-shot combos, because one-shot combos in a game like GPO or Deepwoken, well, they're slow-paced and it would be very, very not fun. And it's not fun in any game, don't get me wrong, but at least in games like Blox Fruits, yes, I'm going to throw that out there, I do not indulge in that garbage, but in games like Blox Fruits, well, the game is fast. It's fast, and so the infinite combos really don't matter all that much, or the one-shot combos don't matter all that much, because, well, the entire game is built on one-shot combos. All right? Are we understanding that? So if you're playing a game and it's slow-paced, why the heck would you make a combat that focuses basically on all the people that know how to do super intricate, stupid combos? Well, yeah, everybody likes skill. No, they don't. No, they don't like skill. Let's be honest. If we actually understand what the player wants in a game, they don't want a skill-based combat. They want a fun combat. I rest my case. Now, combat ranting aside, what else makes a game successful? The map. In my experience, which isn't so humble, I enjoy games that are actually fun to explore. And wow, you would think, oh my gosh, everybody loves that. No, not really. You gotta make sure it fits your game though. For games that are kind of meant to be linear, or meant to be in one spot, there's a little hub, well, map exploration isn't gonna be so big. So you have to figure out other ways. But for games that have a huge map, you can't make your map boring. I'm so sorry that people think that these maps are just meant to be a map. And yeah, of course, but it's meant to kind of be a work of art as well. If your map designers don't enjoy what they're doing, well, you're going to get something that players aren't going to enjoy indulging in, and they're not going to enjoy walking around, exploring. Well, yeah, because it's heartless. Like Jujutsu Infinite. I'm going to keep bashing on this game this entire video, but that map wasn't very fun. And there's games like, let's think here. Oh my lord. GPO. That map isn't very fun. There's nothing to explore there. Deepwoken has things to explore. My game sense is very limited. We're gonna have to have some of you guys in the comments help me with that. But a lot of these games, they make a map just because the map is a necessity for the game, and rather they don't make a map that's fun to explore, that has secrets, that has love built into it. And you would think that that's not really an experience that a lot of developers are thinking about, right? But when you actually do think about it, all the games that you loved, all the games that you've probably played, well, their map has something unique about it, right? And this is about to be a little bit crazy because I'm about to go into a really, really old game. If you know, you know. There was a game called Skylanders a while ago. I enjoyed the maps in that game because there were so many different avenues in such a linear place. And even things like Assassin's Creed, there's so much stuff to do in those small, seemingly small maps. But people don't realize that what's in the map matters so much more. That's why a lot of these developers, no, not developers, but content creators, they kind of look at a game's map and they're like, well, that kind of looks big and empty. There's nothing wrong with a big map. There's nothing wrong with a seemingly empty map. That sounds so crazy, but what they're really trying to say here is that, hey, is there anything really to do in this map? Look, nobody wants to travel for 3 minutes in a forest that has nothing in it. That includes just mobs. Okay, look. It's different from having NPC walking everywhere. That's something, I guess, but that's also not what they're probably going for when these content creators say big and empty. When they see a lot of NPC, they're probably thinking, "Whoa, this game's trying." But that's kind of just the bare minimum. To have your map have NPC around, that's the bare minimum. And Roblox, it can handle it now. I'm pretty sure it can handle it because a lot of other games are doing it. Do other stuff than just that. You can have like maybe traps, a pit in the ground. If you fall in, well, you just get sucked into a dungeon. Like, there's so much you can do with a map that people don't think about. And it's crazy because these developers, I know how game development works, so it's not all that easy to think about. They want to make the simplest version of their game. Okay, you've made the simplest version of your game. Don't release that to the public. Why would you do that? You want to go deeper into the development, right? You've made a game that you think people are going to play. You've made a little map sketch and you scrapped all those huge ideas you had for the game's map. Like, hey, your systems with the quest and the and the weather and such. Well, now that you've finished your core game, you can make that happen. It's not something that should be left out completely just because you thought it was too hard at the time. You've made the game. Make it better, honestly. Well, what else makes a game successful? Specifically anime games. It doesn't really even matter. Well, not copying other anime games. Wow! You think this is a no-brainer, right? Well, not so much. You know, Dragon Ball games, they copy other Dragon Ball games. One Piece games, they copy other One Piece games. Demon Slayer games, they copy other Demon Slayer games. Well, and so on. See, these games, they're not all that unique, are they? And players don't want the same carbon copy game over and over and over. They already played that, did they not? You know, they just played your Blox Fruits. They don't want to play your King Legacy. They don't want to play your Fruit Warriors. We just played that. They want to play something else. They want to play something different. And that's why these developers need to understand this, really, right? If you're making a game and there's something that's already out that has the same concept, basically the same thing as your game, well, don't release the same game twice. But you're not going to get any players. The players aren't going to enjoy that, and they're going to bash on you. Because, well, you just released another game. The same game that we've been playing for a while now. And in fact, a lot of these games, well, they're releasing the same game that didn't work. If you're going to make a Roblox anime game, right? What logic is there in making a game that's already failed in the past without anything different? A lot of these developers, they're going to make a linear bandit beater that's failed 2,000 times before, right? And they're going to release that to the public and think, wowsies, I can't wait to get a whole bunch of money. I can't wait to get a whole bunch of players. Well, no. That's not what's going to happen. In fact, what's going to happen is nobody's even going to look at your game. They're going to think, wow, there's another one. Wow, there's another Blox Fruits. Wow, there's another Demon Fall. Wow, did they really just try to copy Deepwoken? I'm just saying that innovation, it kind of plays a part in game design, and it always has. Why do you think people playing COD don't like COD nowadays? Because, well, you know, Black Ops from back then and Modern Warfare from back then is kind of the same as now. What merit is there in buying another game that's literally the same? That doubles back for things like Pokemon too. Pokemon games, well, you know, they're kind of the same game over and over and over again, and people are realizing, hey, the Pokemon company doesn't actually care. Yeah, that's what these developers are giving off. They don't actually care. They just are making the game that has proven to either work or fail and get a small amount of money in that period that is actually alive. You see what I'm saying here? These developers aren't trying, and if you're a developer about to make a game, well, innovate. Actually make a game that people are gonna play. Actually make a game that hasn't been made. Okay? It's not so hard, is it? If you have an imagination, and if you're making a game, you should absolutely have an imagination. But that's just my 2 cents. Anyways, this video's getting a bit long, so you know what? I'll put one more fact on here. And I'm gonna need you to subscribe, because this is a big one. Alright, so do you watch the anime you're about to make a game on? No? Well, don't make a game. Or go back and watch it. Because a lot of these developers, they make these huge games on anime they haven't watched themselves. They don't understand themselves. They don't know what the players want. And the players aren't going to play that. You see, if you make a game on One Piece, right? Well, you're not going to be able to make a good game on One Piece without knowing the content of One Piece. Does that make any sense? Well, you don't want to watch all 1,000 episodes. You shouldn't be making a One Piece game. That sounds so crazy, right? But it's true. Like, for instance, games like GPO. Once again, I've dropped that again. I'm gonna figure out how to stop doing that. But Foyu, he hasn't watched One Piece. He hasn't. You know how bad that is? A lot of these games, a lot of these developers that are making anime games, they haven't actually watched the anime they're making a game on. They haven't actually read the manga of of the game they're making. Or rather, they haven't read the manga of the continuity they're trying to display. Right? That doesn't make any sense to me. And in fact, that doesn't make sense to a lot of players. Well, you just released a dragon fruit, right? You have them shooting ice beams. What? How does that make any sense? You see where I'm getting at here? You just released a Demon Slayer update, right? And all of a sudden, Tanjiro is using lightning breathing. What? That doesn't make any sense now, does it? You need to understand what you're making to make it. Does that make any sense? Because I hope it does. Because most games that try to make something, that try to do something, but the developer of that game doesn't actually know what they're doing, well, you're gonna get nowhere. And developers need to understand that. And I hope you do. This is my perspective on what makes anime games successful. I hope you understand, and I hope you make a good game if you're a developer listening to this. So, I'm Kasai Chose, and I'm out. And if you're gonna watch my next video, go ahead and get to it, because there's no more waiting.